Yes? It's here! I can't believe it's finally here! Finally, it's out. Now to read it. What? What? What was I doing? Oh yeah! Ready Player 2! This sequel to Ready Player 1 came out a year ago, so if this is your first time hearing about its release, what are you waiting for? Go grab a copy! Also, I will be spoiling the contents of the book, so if you haven't read it yet, do it now! I would also strongly recommend you read Ready Player 1 first so that you understand what the heck is going on. Our story takes place sometime after the events of Ready Player 1. The story is still from the first-person perspective of Wade Watts, who is now head of Gregarious Simulations along with his friends Samantha, H, and Shoto. The story begins with Wade discovering a hidden message on the Easter egg. It leads to a separate room containing an upgrade for the Oasis called the Oasis Neural Interface, or the ONI. What the ONI does is that it hooks up to your brain and connects you to the Oasis so the simulation feels more real. For example, if you were swimming in the Oasis, you could feel the water. I think the best part about it is you can't feel pain while using the ONI. Now, the ONI also contains a feature that allows you to record what's going on around you, and you can share it with others so that they can experience the same things you're experiencing. For example, if you wanted to experience being a musician, you could look up an ONI recording of it and become that person. It's not like watching a YouTube video, it's like becoming part of the video itself. Also, the ONI has a 12-hour usage limit. The reason is so that people don't die of synaptic overload syndrome. Anyways, Wade decides to start selling the ONI to gain more profit, and H and Shoto agree it's a good idea, while Og and Samantha think it's a terrible idea. Well, after they start selling the ONI, Samantha breaks up with Wade. Now let's shift to the world for a little bit. The world is still falling apart, and while Wade and friends have donated a lot of funds to charity and have even started running their own charities, and they're helping some people, it's not going to cure the energy crisis. But Wade, H, and Shoto have spent some more money to build a spaceship they named the Vonnegut, and it has a copy of the Oasis uploaded onto it, which they called Arcadia. Let's get back to the main story. 3 years after the ONI sells, after IOI is bought by Gregarious Simulations, and after a certain amount of copies are sold, a message appears on Halliday's website. It's another riddle to start the quest for something called the Siren's Soul. 7 shards are needed to restore the Siren's Soul. The question is, where to find them? Because Wade is having a hard time finding the shards, he offers a $1 billion bounty to anyone who has information on the shards. After some more arguing over the ONI, Wade finally gets a message from a gunter named Lohengrin, who has found the first shard. The first shard was contained at the home Kira Morrow, Og's late wife, stayed at when she was an exchange student. After touching the shard, Wade experiences a flashback from Kira's life. Now, Wade gives Lohengrin the $1 billion reward, and she promises to share it with her friends. Things seem to be looking a little better, right? Well, things get worse. Much worse. Ogden Morrow has disappeared from his home, and Sorrento has escaped from prison. So another meeting is called to see what the heck they should do about it. But guess who happens to be at the meeting? An AI copy of James Halliday, or Anorak, who has taken back the robes of Anorak, which gave Wade his admin powers and his access to the big red button. It turns out that Anorak released an update for the ONI that prevents anyone from logging out of the ONI, thus forcing them to die via synaptic overload syndrome. So basically SAO, but with a time limit. He was also the one who broke Sorrento out of prison and is holding Og captive, since Og can also obtain the 7 shards. Only Wade and Og can gain the shards. Only them, nobody else. Anorak will let everyone free if they bring him the 7 shards. Since Samantha isn't wearing an ONI, she tries to do what she can in the real world. So, like the first book, you gotta know the reference in order to get the shard. The second shard is hidden away on the planet Kodama, where Wade has to play a game of Sega Ninja in order to get it.
Hang on, can I talk about this one? Please?
Alright, knock 'em dead, kid.
Sega Ninja or Ninja Princess is a game starring Princess Karomi, and her castle has been taken over by a traitor by the name of Zaemon. Her goal is to win back her castle. Sounds pretty sweet, right? Well, apparently the company thought that people wouldn't play the game if the main protagonist was a princess, so when the game was ported to the Sega Master System, the name was changed to The Ninja, and our princess was replaced with a male protagonist named Kazamaru, who has to save Princess Karomi. That's unfair!
Great job, kid! Now get out of my review. Wade not only had to play through the entirety of Sega Ninja in 1 quarter, but shortly after experiencing another flashback, he had to face Kazamaru, but he was pretty easy to take down. We now have 2 shards! The next shard is located on a planet filled with all kinds of references to John Hughes films. What Wade and friends had to do here was a side quest which had the NPCs create the original ending of the movie Pretty in Pink. Apparently, the original ending didn't do well with the test audiences, so John Hughes had to rewrite the ending to appease the audience. Great! Now we have 3 shards! The 4th shard is hidden away on the planet Halcydonia, an educational planet for kids that Og and Kira programmed together. They quickly gain the 4th shard, and right before they make their way to the 5th one, even more bad things happen! Anorak has reprogrammed NPCs to murder other avatars and pick up their stuff. It seems that Anorak is looking for something. Something specific. Lohengrin and her friends turn up after looking for hints that Og left behind to let them know where he is. They all discover that hidden within the oasis is a weapon called the Dork Slayer, which is meant to kill Anorak should he turn to evil, and Og is the only one who can wield it. They also find out that the Siren Soul is actually a digital recreation of Lucosia, Kira's avatar, much like how Anorak, the evil AI, is a digital recreation of Halliday. Apparently, Anorak wants the Siren Soul so he can take Lucosia away to fall in love with him on the Vonnegut where no one will bother them. Since Wade and friends have no time to look for the Dork Slayer, Lohengrin and her friends set out to look for it. Samantha logs out to go with the team to save Og since they now know where he is. Wade, H, and Shoto make their way to where the 5th shard is held, Afterworld, where they must battle 7 incarnations of Prince. But during the battle, Shoto's avatar is killed. Now here's the bad news. Avatars have stopped respawning, meaning that the people who are logged in with an ONI are in some kind of dreamless limbo. They're still alive, but no one knows what they're experiencing. Now, the 6th shard is located on Arda 1, which is a planet dedicated to the first age of Middle-earth as described in the Silmarillion. Now, I could go over all the references in the Silmarillion, but that would be its own video, and even then, that video would probably be several hours long considering how dense the book is. So I'll just go over briefly what happened. The 6th shard is on the crown of Morgoth, the evilest being in Middle-earth and 10 times worse than Sauron. So, Wade and H try to make their way to Morgoth's fortress, but are attacked by the Karkaroth, and H's avatar is killed. Thankfully, Samantha has logged back in and saves Wade. Then they sneak into the fortress, grab the shard, and escape via the Eagles. The last shard is on Thonia, where Anorak's castle is, and Wade grabs it and tricks Anorak into giving him back the robes of Anorak. Wade immediately teleports to the library and tells Anorak to let everyone go or he'll press the big red button. At the same time, a team is gathered outside of Og's old mansion where he is being held captive. Wade joins the team by controlling a telebot, and they find Sorrento and Og. Anorak is controlling a telebot as well, and finds no more use for Sorrento anymore, as Sorrento's real mission was to destroy the Oasis. But since Anorak is part of the Oasis, that would mean destroying him as well. So, Anorak kills Sorrento, but at the same time, Og is fatally wounded. Chaos unleashes as the robots within Og's mansion were set to kill if Sorrento died. Thankfully, Samantha and some others managed to get Og out of the mansion and into an ambulance, which crashed, but they're still okay. Og finally wears an ONI as he is too weak to use a regular Oasis system and does battle with Anorak. Ladies and gentlemen, we have ourselves quite an epic battle. So many people gather to watch, but Og isn't doing so hot since he's dying, but Lohengrin arrives and Og gets the sword. He uses it to destroy Anorak for good. Og dies of his injuries in the real world. But thankfully, everyone who was logged into the ONI has safely logged out and they're awake now. Wade wakes up in a hospital 15 hours later since he was suffering from synaptic overload syndrome. He then immediately logs back in, puts the Siren's soul back together, and Leucosia appears before him. She gives Wade the Rod of Resurrection, which can bring back digital copies of literally anyone who is logged in with an ONI, so that includes their memories and all that. He can even do this if someone is already dead in the real world. So Wade uses the Rod of Resurrection to bring back Og. Since the world is not quite ready to live with digital player characters, Wade decides to make copies of himself and the rest of the human race and upload them to the Vonnegut. He then sends the Vonnegut to Proxima Centauri in hopes that they will find a better world than the one they currently live in. Wade and Samantha get married, and they all lived happily ever after at the end. Okay, I'm gonna be real here. While the ending was satisfying, it didn't leave me feeling satisfied. I don't quite know how to describe it, but I feel like I've read The Time Machine with an alternate ending. Now, I'm aware that this book got a lot of negative reviews, and I can see why, but I'm not going to go into explicit detail since this is a clean channel. This is also why the age recommendation is 17 and older. My overall opinion on the book? I liked the intense moments and a few of the references that I understood well, but I didn't understand many of the references and didn't really care to get too deep into some of them, as most of the references are well known. I also didn't like some other parts of the book that made me feel uncomfortable. I thought the book was fine. Honestly, if you're a fan of the first book and want more of the world and stuff, then go ahead. Who am I to stop you from reading it? I'd say it's up to you whether or not you want to read it, but just know that you might not like this adventure. It's not for everyone. But hey, if you really enjoyed the book, great! Okay, the analysis is going to be brief. The theme of the simulation versus reality is still there. The world is falling apart, and that encourages more people to buy the ONI and have the simulation become their reality. That either builds people up or destroys them. It's much like how people view this book. Some like it, and some want to burn it. The real theme I caught was in the end. You can't control people's likes or dislikes. Sure, you can recommend something that makes you happy, and maybe it'll make them happy too, but you can't force this kind of thing on them. That's something a lot of people need to understand. And that was Ready Player 2. Not as great as the first one, but still doesn't hurt to read this book if you're up for it. Anyways, I gotta go take care of something real quick. Happy reading! Alright, who woke me up from my nap?